She stood at the edge of the gate, shaking. The ground beneath her feet was cold metal, but beyond the gate was pure darkness. A deep pit filled with monsters. Skarks, creatures that crawled, hissed, and tore flesh like paper. A girl with broken hope and weak limbs was now their next meal. The guards didn't say a word. They simply pulled the lever clank. The heavy gate behind her dropped. The floor below tilted. She screamed. Her small body slid down a steel tunnel, spinning fast, hitting her shoulder, cutting her elbow. Then, with a sharp drop, she fell. Landed hard on dirt, her breath knocked out, eyes wide, body still, silence. For a moment, nothing moved. Then came the breathing, low, heavy, from more than one direction. She turned her head slowly, ignoring the pain in her ribs. Her shoulder burned, bleeding from the fall. Her leg was twisted, maybe even broken, but her eyes stayed locked on the glowing red eyes ahead. Then another pair, and another. They were coming. Her name didn't matter anymore. Her family had erased. At the moment they threw her away, she had once been part of a royal line on the planet Korax. But she was born too soft, her skin too pale, her voice too gentle. They said she wouldn't survive the next war, so they fed her to the beasts. Instead, one monster crawled closer, slow, massive, its claws digging into the earth. The stench of blood clung to its skin. Teeth were long, sharp, and blackened with old flesh. She tried to crawl away, dragging her body toward a jagged rock wall, but her arms were weak. Her breath came in short gasps. "Please," she whispered, even though she knew no one could hear her. Not like this. Somewhere far above, a small ship flew silently across the old wasteland of Korax. Inside it was a human alone, tired, sick of war. His name was Kai, a former soldier from Earth, now working as a scavenger. Kai had taken a job to retrieve parts from the abandoned tunnels of Sector 12. He didn't care what lay beneath the surface. He just wanted credits, enough to leave this cursed system and never return. But his scanner beeped. A life form could be a trap, he muttered, but the signal was weak, small, fading. Kai hesitated, then turned the ship around. Back in the pit, the alien girl pressed her back to the wall. One of the Skark's creatures crept closer, its long tongue licking the air. Its chest rose and fell, muscles twitching. It was waiting, studying her, enjoying her fear. Then, with a shriek, it lunged. She screamed and threw up her arm, but a flash of blue light stopped the beast midair. A sharp blast exploded through the pit. The monster's body crashed against the far wall. Sliding lifeless to the ground, she gasped, turned. A figure stood above, lowering a smoking weapon. It was tall, armored, and definitely not Koraxian. "You still alive?" The voice was rough, male and human. She stared at him, eyes wide, not believing it. A human? In the pit? Another beast shrieked, charging from the side. The human spun, fired. Another flash. Another dead monster. He looked down. At her again. "Can you move?" She blinked, shook her head. "All right," he sighed, kneeling. "Then I guess you're lucky I'm still feeling stupid today." With one arm he pulled her close, lifting her broken form gently. She cried out from the pain, but he didn't stop. The sound of more creatures echoed around them. "I don't know who threw you in here," he muttered, carrying her toward the exit route he'd cut open with a plasma torch. "But I've got a serious problem with monsters." She clung to his chest, too weak to speak. And for the first time in her life, she didn't feel like prey. She felt staved. Asterisk, the Skarks didn't stop. They could smell blood. And the girl's scent, fresh, alien, and young, was like fire too. Their hunger. As Kai carried her through the old mining tunnel, he could hear them behind, crawling, snarling, getting closer. His boots crushed bones and old metal scraps. The air was thick with rot. His torch flickered. The girl trembled in his arms, her silver skin streaked with red, her violet eyes half closed. "How many of them were in that pit?" he muttered. She tried to speak. "T10, maybe more." Kai. cursed under his breath. Great. He adjusted her weight, pressing her closer to his chest. She was light to light for someone her size. Thin, malnourished, barely holding on. He'd seen too many like her on too many broken worlds. But this one was different. She hadn't begged. She hadn't cried. Even now, bleeding and broken, she was silent except for her quick, shallow breaths. Behind them, claws scraped the stone. Kai turned a corner and kicked open a collapsed service door. Sparks flew. He ducked inside, laying her gently against a cracked wall. The emergency lights blinked red. This room had once been a med station, long abandoned. "We'll rest here," he said. She winced, reaching for her leg. I can't. Feel my foot." He knelt, tore the bottom of her suit open. Her ankle was twisted badly, the skin already darkening. He scanned it with his portable med reader. Fractured. An infection started. He pulled out a vial, injecting it just below the skin. She bit her lip to stay quiet. "You're not from the lower castes, are you?" he asked. She looked away. He could tell. Her features were too symmetrical. Her hair, though dirty now, was long and finely braided in royal style. Her accent, even broken, was formal. "I was promised to the council," she whispered. "But I wasn't strong enough for them, so they fed you to monsters," Kai said flatly. She nodded, his jaw clenched. He stood, walked to the shattered door, and listened.
"Because the skarks were moving slow?"
Cautious, sniffing through the tunnels. "They're not rushing," he said. "They're hurting us." She looked up. "What does that mean?" Kai met her eyes. "It means they're smarter than they look." Minutes passed. Every second stretched like hours. The girl finally spoke. "You're not like the others." Kai didn't answer. She watched him clean his weapon. His armor was scratched, patched from different wars. No emblems, no rank, just survival. "Why are you helping me?" she asked again, softer this time. He paused. "Because I've been left behind before," he said. "Not everyone deserves to die in the dark." Then he walked over, holding out a protein stick. She took it with both hands and nibbled slowly. She hadn't eaten in days. He sat beside her, watching the exit. "What's your name?" she asked. He shook his head. "Names don't matter down here." "I want to know," she whispered. He sighed. "Kai." She smiled faintly. "I'm Arixa." A small silence fell between them, then a sound too close. A hiss. Kai stood up. Flash. A long claw swiped through the doorway. He fired. The beast shrieked, but more came behind it. They had followed the blood. A trail left by her broken leg, his own wounds. "Get up," Kai said sharply. I can't." He didn't wait. He threw her arm over his shoulder, pulled her up. They ran. She cried out with each step, but he didn't stop. Plasma blasts lit the tunnel. Dust fell from above. The skarks were faster now, learning from their dead. Arixa looked back and screamed. One of the beasts had broken through the ceiling, dropped. It lunged. Kai turned, aimed, pulled the trigger, dash, click, dash. Empty. The creature roared, its jaws wide. Then, a sudden whir followed by a searing beam of blue. Collapsed mining laser from the ceiling flickered to life, activated by Kai's emergency beacon. The monster vaporized mid-dash air. Kai didn't stop to celebrate. "Come on," he growled. "There's a shaft up ahead. Emergency lift. We reach it, we live." Arixa nodded, gripping his vest tightly. As they ran, her eyes filled not with fear, but with something strange, something she hadn't felt in so long. Hope, and the trail of blood behind them told a story. She had been left to die. But now, someone was willing to bleed to keep her alive. Kai stumbled into the cavern with Arixa leaning heavily against him. His shoulder was bleeding. Her ankle had swollen twice its size. Both were out of breath. Their backs burned from the chase. But they had found something. It was an old cavern once. A mining command station, now long abandoned. Broken crates littered the floor. Skeletons, both human and alien, rested against the rusted walls. Silent reminders of another battle lost years ago. Arixa looked around with wide eyes. This place smells of metal and death. Kai scanned the room quickly. Good, he said. That means the Skarks don't like it either. He shut the door behind them and jammed a pipe through the handle. Then, without a word, collapsed. Onto the ground beside her. The silence felt almost wrong after the chaos of the tunnels. She leaned back against the cold wall.
Ow.
Her fingers brushed against a helmet that had once belonged to a Korak soldier burned through by acid. She swallowed hard. Do you think they'll follow us in? Kai glanced up. His face was streaked with blood and dust. Maybe, but they're cowards when they're not hunting in packs. She looked toward the corner. Something shifted there, eh? Skeleton, sitting upright, still had a rifle in its lap. What is this place? She asked. Kai stood slowly, walked over to the rifle, and checked the chamber. This was a fallback site. Last outpost before the mines were overrun. A lot of people died here. Soldiers, engineers, civilians. He pulled a dusty blanket from a nearby locker and wrapped it around her shoulders. It's not home, he said, but it's something. It's ours past. The fire Kai lit was small, burning with soft blue light from old chemicals. Arixa sat close, her face lit by the glow. For the first time, he noticed the faint shimmer in her skin, almost like glass. Reflecting tiny shades of purple and green when the fire hit it. You're not a soldier, she said, breaking the silence. Kai didn't respond. She tilted her head. But you know how to fight. He looked at the flames. Earth taught us fast. You either fight or you don't come back. She stared at him. My people would have let me die without looking back. Kai finally looked at her. Yeah, but I didn't. Her eyes met his. Why? Long pause. Then he said, because even the worst places deserve one good thing left in them. Later she tried to sleep, but her body ached, and her mind kept replaying the moment her father had signed the exile order without emotion, without guilt. She had cried for hours that day, not because she was scared, but because she'd realized no one was coming for her, and now here she was, wrapped in a dead soldier's blanket. Alive only because a human had gone the wrong way. She opened her eyes and saw him leaning against the doorway, weapon in hand, still awake, watching, guarding. You should rest, she whispered. I'll sleep when I'm dead. He replied. Suddenly a sound, not loud, not sharp, but wrong. A slow scrape like claws against metal. Kai stood up, gun raised. The sound came again. From above he looked at the ceiling, cracked stone. Pipes running through it, then silence. He waited. Nothing. He turned back, and Arixa pointed, her hand shaking. Behind you. Kai spun just in time to see a thin, spidery Skarks creature drop silently from a pipe. It lunged. He grabbed it midair, slammed it into the wall, but its claws tore into his arm. Arixa screamed. She crawled toward a piece of pipe, grabbed it, and with all her strength jabbed it into the beast's neck. It shrieked, flailed, then fell still. Blood sprayed across her chest. She froze. Kai pulled the creature off of her. You okay? She nodded slowly. Her chest rose and fell fast. Her hands were shaking. I killed it. He looked at her with quiet respect. You saved me.
Out.
For a moment neither of them spoke. Then she whispered, This place, really, is built of bones. Kai patched his wound in silence. Arixa sat near the fire again. But something had changed in her. Her eyes weren't just scared anymore. They were focused. Tomorrow, he said, we push toward the surface. She nodded. I'll walk, if you can help me stand, he smiled. Deal. And in the cold grave of the past, surrounded by the dead, they made a promise. Without saying the words, they would not die here. Not tonight. Not together, asterisk. Arixa's feet hit the tunnel floor before sunrise. Every step was pain. Her ankle screamed with each movement. But she gritted her teeth and walked, because Kai was beside her, and he had bled for her. That meant she could bleed too. The old tunnel was collapsing in places. Pipes leaked steam, and the air was thick with mold and ash. Somewhere deep behind them, Skarks howled again, but it was distant for now. They moved slowly, quietly. The path ahead was narrow and steep. The emergency shaft Kai had spoken of wasn't just a rumor, it was real. But reaching it meant climbing through forgotten places that hadn't seen light in years. Kai's arm was bandaged with torn fabric. He didn't say much. She noticed how often he glanced back at her, checking her face, her steps, her breath. She was no longer a stranger to him, and he was no longer a mystery to her. About an hour into the climb, Rixa heard something that made her stop. Dripping not. Water. Thick. Wet. Then a metallic clang. Kai raised his hand to halt her. They crouched behind a metal crate. Just ahead, the tunnel opened into a wider chamber circular, with rusted support beams along the ceiling. In the center, a Skarks, but this one wasn't like the others. It was hunched over a smaller body, feeding its back rose and fell with slow, deliberate breath. Kai whispered, "It's wounded. Probably got caught in a cave-in. Look at its leg." Indeed. Beast dragged one side as it moved. "Can we go around it?" Rixa asked softly. Kai studied the walls. "Could try the vent shafts, but if they collapse, we fall." He nodded. She looked at the creature again. Its face was bloody, but something about it made her stomach twist. Not fear recognition, that one. "It was in the pit," she whispered. "It was the first to sniff me." Kai's hand moved slowly to his sidearm. "Maybe we should finish the story." She didn't know what came over her before he could stop her. Rixa stood. She picked up a broken pipe and stepped into the chamber. The creature raised its head. It saw her. It snarled. Kai shouted, "What are you doing?" But she didn't stop. The Skarks hissed and charged. She waited until the last second, then dove to the side. Kai fired. 2 rounds hit the beast's shoulder. It roared and turned toward him. Rixa jammed the pipe through its ribs. The creature screamed, spasmed, and collapsed. Blood soaked the floor. She was shaking. Kai rushed to her side, grabbing her shoulders. "What the hell was that?" Her eyes were wide, lips trembling. "I had to do it. I had to stop running." Kai stared at her for a long second, then nodded slowly. "You're not who you were yesterday." She looked down at the creature. "Maybe," she said, "or maybe I was always like this. No one ever let me fight." They left the chamber in silence. But something followed them. Not a sound, not a creature, a feeling. The air changed, heavier, sharper, and then they heard it. A scream, not animal, not Skarks, a human. Kai froze. "That's not possible." Rixa looked up at him. He said, "No one else came here." He nodded slowly. "Exactly." They moved quickly, turning the next corner, and what they saw made Rixa stop cold. A man, chained to a wall, half-conscious. Eyes sunken, skin pale, covered in dried blood. Kai ran to him. "Soldier uniform," he said. "Earth emblem." He slapped the man's cheek. "Hey, stay with me." The man coughed, blood spilling from his lips. "Kai." The voice was barely a whisper. Kai stiffened. "You know me? I was with the 2nd drop team. 5 years ago. We were ambushed. You left." Kai's face went pale. Rixa stood back, confused. The man's hand gripped Kai's wrist. "You left us behind." Kai's hand shook. "I thought you were all dead." "We were, eventually." And then the man's grip loosened. He stopped breathing. Rixa whispered. "Who was he?" Kai didn't answer. He just stood up, eyes dark. "Move now." They walked for a long time in silence. Then Rixa spoke. "You left them?" Kai didn't look at her. "We were surrounded. 10 of us. We had 1 ship, 4 seats, and you took 1. He stopped walking. His voice was cold now. "Ow. Do you know what it's like to choose who lives?" She didn't answer. He turned to her. "They screamed at me, cursed me. I hear them every night. I don't sleep, Rixa. I never sleep." She stepped closer. "And yet, you stayed for me. Why?" His voice cracked. "Because this time, I could carry someone out." They reached a ladder bolted to the wall. Rusted, old, but still strong. The surface is 60 meters up, Kai said. She nodded. I'll climb. Kai looked at her ankle. Can you? She looked up at the ladder, then back at him. I don't care if I can or not. I'm going. He smiled weakly. Then after you, soldier, Dad. And as she climbed, one bloody step at a time, she whispered to herself, monsters don't bleed alone. The ladder groaned beneath her. Each rung felt like fire against her hands. Rix's ankle pulsed with pain. Her arms trembled and blood dripped from her elbow where a cut had reopened. But she didn't stop climbing, she said, above her. The surface hatch glowed faintly lit by sunlight. It had never touched her skin. She had never seen the real sky. She had grown up inside towers where the air was filtered, and the light was artificial. Outside was forbidden for her kind. Royal blood was too precious to breathe wild air. Now she was crawling toward it, and she wasn't sure if she was allowed to. Below, Kai climbed carefully behind her, one hand still gripping his rifle, the other guiding her foot if she slipped. You're halfway, he called up. Keep breathing. I can't feel my hands, she whispered. Good. Means they're still there. She gave a tired laugh. It hurt, but she liked it. Then something changed in the wind. It blew down from the top hand with it came. Scent. Burnt metal. Rot. Ash. Kai stopped. That's not right. She looked down. What is it? He pointed up. Something's burning. Arixa turned her eyes toward the hatch again, and then she heard it. Engines, but not from a rescue. Ship. The hatch burst open above her with a loud clang. She screamed. A massive clawed hand reached down, grabbing the edge of the ladder, snapping off one of the top rungs. Kai shouted, drop! She let go and fell right into his arms. They slammed into the metal grating at the base of the shaft. Breath knocked out of them above. Skark's commander, twice the size of the ones from the pit, let out a roar that shook the walls. It followed us, Kai said, pushing her behind him. Or it was waiting. The beast dropped to the ladder and began to descend, fast crushing each rung beneath it. Arixa backed away. There's no way out. Kai looked around. One path, a side tunnel dark and collapsed halfway, but still open enough to crawl. He didn't hesitate. Go. But now, she crawled first, sharp rocks tearing her knees. He followed. Firing behind them, the beast roared, but the tunnel was too narrow for its massive body. They slid down a small slope and landed in a forgotten corridor. One door locked. Kai pulled out a broken access card and jammed it into the panel. Sparks. The door buzzed, then slid open halfway. He shoved her through, squeezed in after. The door slammed shut. They collapsed. It was pitch black, but above them, a new tunnel stretched upward. And this time at the end they could see daylight. Real daylight? Can you walk? He asked, panting. She nodded. Barely together, they climbed, step by painful step. The tunnel led them to a slope of rubble, and to a broken steel grate half buried under dirt. Kai kicked it once, then again it gave way. The light blinded them, Arixa blinked as her head emerged first. Blue, not the harsh white of palace lights, not the flickering orange of field. Blue sky. Wide. Endless. She had never imagined it would look. Soft the wind hit her face. Real wind. She stood up slowly, her hair whipping in the breeze, and for a long second, she forgot everything. Kai climbed out behind her. Bleeding from the leg, he collapsed onto the grass. Grass. She fell to her knees beside him, touched it, rubbed it between her fingers. It's real, she whispered. The surface. Kai coughed. Congratulations, you're a surface girl now. A shadow passed overhead. They looked up. A patrol ship. Earth emblem. Rexa froze. Will they shoot? Kai shook his head. Not if they see my signal. He pulled out a flare. Fired it. It shot red into the air. The ship slowed, turned. Rexa gripped his hand tightly. The ship landed. Minutes later, 2 armored humans rushed out. They stopped when they saw her, guns half raised. Is that Korax? Kai stood, weak but upright. Stand down. She's with me. The soldiers looked confused. You brought her? She saved my life. Kai said. The words hit her like a lightning bolt. She saved him. The soldiers helped them aboard. The ship lifted off. Arixa looked out the window as the world grew, smaller below her. Her people had left her to die. Now she was flying. Higher than they ever let her stand. Asterisk, the ship door hissed open. Cold, clean air hit Arixa's face as she stepped out. The landing pad was surrounded by guards in black armor, all wearing Earth's insignias. Towering walls loomed behind them, and bright searchlights traced every corner. Cameras zoomed in on her face. She had never been somewhere so open, yet felt so watched. Beside her, Kai limped slightly, leaning on a crutch the med team had given. His wounds were stitched, but he refused full rest. He walked like a soldier wounded. Yes, but unwilling to look weak. She tried to copy that, but every eye was on her, not him, her, and not because she was beautiful, because she was alien. They were led through long corridors of silver and steel. The floor gleamed. The walls buzzed with quiet power. Earth Station 7, a human outpost near the border of Korak's territory. A place where no alien had ever walked freely until today. Arixa noticed how people stared. Some whispered. One soldier dropped his tray. At the mess hall entrance, just seeing her pass by, Kai noticed it too. You good? He asked. She nodded. But her fingers curled tightly around the edge of her robe. They were clean, no fresh clothes. Real food, but she still felt like dirt. Commander Rilvan stood at the far end of the war room table, tall, graying, with one cybernetic eye that scanned everything like a hawk. His voice was sharp. You brought a Korax exile into an Earth facility? Kai stood firm. I brought a survivor. She is their royal blood, Rilvan snapped. She could be a spy. Arixa raised her head. Your monsters don't spy. The room went still. Kai turned to her, a bit surprised, but she continued. My people left me in a pit. I have nothing to report except betrayal. Rilvan's eye flickered. Convenient story. She was there, Kai said. I saw what they did. I saw what she did. And I trust her. Rilvan narrowed his eyes. Why? Kai looked at Arixa, then back at the commander. Because I've seen real enemies. Hey, they don't cry while saving your life. Later that night, Arixa sat alone in the garden dome. A simulated moon hovered above fake trees, but the silence was real. She touched her ankle, now fully wrapped in healing, but her heart still ached. Her chest still felt small, like it had no room to breathe. She heard footsteps. Kai, he sat beside her. His breath was steady, but his shoulders sagged. You handled Rilvan well. She smiled faintly. He hates me. He doesn't trust anyone. A pause. Then she asked, Do you regret it? He raised an eyebrow. What? Saving me? Kai leaned back on the bench. No, I regret taking so long to find you. She looked down at her hands. Do you know, she said, my people used to tell me I wasn't worthy of sunlight, that my skin would burn if I stood beneath it too long. Kai shook his head slowly. And now, she held her hands up to the dome's fake moonlight. Now I'm still waiting for the burn. He chuckled softly, then turned serious. You have a choice now? What kind of choice? You could stay here. Under protection. Safe. She looked at him. Or, you could come with me. There's another outpost. We need medics, translators, people with courage. She tilted her head. You think I'm brave? You fought a Skarks with a pipe. She laughed for real this time. A soft, pure sound. Then, yes, she said, I'll go. But just as they stood to leave, an alarm blared. Red lights flashed across the dome. A voice echoed from the speakers. Emergency. Sector 12 breached. Multiple contacts confirmed Skark's incursion. Kai froze. Impossible. That sector was purged. Arix's heart dropped. No, not all of them died. Some followed us. Another alert, one Skarks, is inside the base. Kai turned to her. Get to the medbay. Lock the doors. No, she said firmly. If it followed me then, I'll face it. He stared at her. That's not your job. She stepped closer. It became mine the moment they threw me to it. The lights were red, not just flashing on the walls, bleeding across them. Sirens howled through. Earth Station 7, as soldiers ran past, shouting codes, locking blast doors. The name Skarks turned every face pale. And somewhere between all that, panic, Arixa stood completely still. She wasn't shaking. She wasn't afraid. She was remembering. Remembering. The moment her people dragged her through the palace halls. The moment they closed the pit gate. The moment the first monster lunged at her. And she thought, this is how I died. But now, she wasn't in the pit. Now, she was the one walking toward the monster. Kai caught up to her at the hallway. Junction. His rifle was charged, his eyes sharp. You're not going alone. She didn't argue. She just nodded. Together they moved down the central corridor. Their footsteps echoed. A medic passed by on a stretcher. His arm was gone. It's burned off by acid. Second level, he gasped. Storage bay, it's feeding. Kai's jaw tightened. They took the elevator in silence. When the doors opened, the smell hit them first. Rot, blood, fuel. And behind that, the faint, familiar hiss. It wasn't just a Scar X, it was a Skarks. The one that had watched her in the pit. The one she had stabbed but never finished. Now it had followed her into the sky. It stood over a torn-open storage pod, pulling apart. Food rations like bones. Its tails scraped along the floor. Acid dripped from its claws. It turned, and its eyes locked onto Arixa. Recognition. She stepped forward. Kai lifted his rifle. One move, and I'll drop it. No, Arixa said softly. Let me try first. What? Just give me a moment. He didn't lower the weapon, but he didn't fire. Arixa walked toward the creature. Slow, careful, her heart pounded. But her voice was calm. You remember me, she said. The Skarks tilted its head. I was thrown to you, she whispered. To die? To be eaten? Its breathing deepened. A low growl echoed in its chest. But I lived. Because he came. She pointed behind her toward Kai. And because I chose not to stay on my knees. The Skark snarled. Arixa didn't move. I'm not prey anymore, she said. And you're not just a beast anymore. You climbed out, just like me. The growl faded. For a moment, the room held its breath. Then the beast lunged. Kai fired blast after blast. But it was too fast. Arixa ducked, rolled, grabbed a metal rod from the ground. The Skark slammed Kai against the wall, knocking the rifle from his hands. She screamed.
She ran!
Rod in hand, Dan drove it through the beast's side. It shrieked, turned, backhanded her across the floor. Kai pushed up, coughing blood. Get back! But Arixa stood. Her face was bleeding, but her eyes blazed. I'm not running again. She limped toward the beast. It lunged again. She ducked under it, grabbing the broken cable behind the crate. One spark. She jammed it into the creature's open wound. Electricity exploded through its body. The Skarks let out one final, deafening scream, then dropped. Silence. Real silence. Kai collapsed to the floor. Breathing hard, Arixa stood over the beast's body, panting. Blood dripped from her hand. Her arm was shaking. She looked at Kai. He smiled. Remind me. Ever too. Throw you anything metal again? She laughed, then fell beside him. They sat in the silence, backs against the wall, surrounded by smoke and blinking lights. Hours later, the cleanup crew arrived. The creature was gone. The station was safe, but news had spread, not just about the Skarks, but about her. The alien girl who survived the pit. The exile who killed the monster. The one a human. Soldier-trusted Commander Rilvan met her in the recovery wing. He didn't speak for a long time. Then he said, We've been contacted by Korak's High Council. They want you returned. Arixa looked up. to finish what they started. They claim you're a criminal. She smirked. They fear I became something they can't control. Rilvan folded his arms. You're not going back? She blinked. Why not? 'Cause you're under Earth protection now. Officially. She didn't smile. She just breathed. And for the first time, it didn't hurt to take up space outside. In the open air of the upper platform, Kai was watching the stars. She walked up beside him, wrapped in a new coat. Earth colors. He looked. Over. They tell me you're a citizen now. She nodded. And you? He raised an eyebrow. Just a guy who picked the right person to save. She leaned her head against his shoulder. I think, she whispered, you made me someone. Worth fighting for? He put his arm around her gently. No, he said. You were already that. I just stayed long enough to see it.